Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. The problem with ethics and morality is that you have to apply it across the board. If you don't apply it across the board, then you're not an ethical person. So, as I always use this analogy, if someone commits an act of rape, you call it an act of rape. If your uncle commits an act of rape, you call it an act of rape. Both of them are equally bad, correct? And evil, correct? Correct. Now, if someone doesn't do that, if someone calls that an act of rape, but not that one an act of rape, is that someone ethical, moral, fair, just, good? No. Now we've been having for about a year and 3 months almost every day we've had news about the evil Russians killing civilians. Bad. Attacking civilian infrastructure. Bad. It was obvious, why? Because it's a war, that the other side, which is the Ukrainians, did the same thing. Did I call it the same way? Act of terrorism? A crime? Crime against humanity, anything like that? War crime? No. Now, look what happened here. The Ukrainians attacked Moscow with some drones. And those drones hit some apartment buildings. Apartment buildings are where civilians live. Is that a war crime? Is that acceptable? If you say yes, that means the other side can do the same thing. If you say no, then you are a just person, a moral person. You have to call it the way it is, regardless who does it. All right, now we have here a few guys that are talking so much shit that's unbelievable. And if they would be just regular people like you and I would say, well, no, these guys don't have power, it's okay, we're tards, we can talk like that. But you have people who make articles on prestigious newspapers, and there are even officials, British officials, who experts and officials in the government that really show how moral and ethical they are. Now, let's go and start with this article, which comes from Ukrainska Pravda. It is from today, Tuesday, the 30th of May 2023. Ukraine has right to defend itself beyond its borders. Correct, but I have questions. UK Foreign Secretary says, why did they come and said this now and not yesterday or the day before or a month before? Is it because of the Moscow attack with the drones? Well, I suspect it is. I don't have any evidence, but I will provide the evidence with my last article because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 articles. Okay, so I'm going to go in a crescendo. I'm going to go like this. All right, start easy and then build a little bit and then build a little bit and then build a little bit and then knock out. So let's start, as I said, with this and let's see what's going on here. UK Foreign Secretary James Cleverly. Well, you're not clever, that's for sure. Or if you are clever, I don't think you are, has said that Ukraine has a, and I'm quoting, legitimate right, end quote, to defend itself and can, this is a weasel expression, project force beyond its borders. All right, this is very much an evasive term. Do you mean, can they rape? Can they assassinate other leaders being on third-party countries? Let's say Putin goes to, South Africa. Let's say South Africa does not arrest Putin based on that warrant. Does Ukraine have the legitimate right to go and assassinate another elected officials that is at war with? And if yes, can Russians do the same thing to the Ukrainians? Well, if you say no because they attacked and we just respond, okay, all right, let's say you are at war with someone or someone attacked you. and that someone, let's say, I don't know, does something bad to you, let's say to one of your family members, like, I don't know, a rape. One of your female gets raped by your enemy. And you say, oh my God, that's awful, that's not fair, which it is, not fair, and all that's a crime, isn't all that. And then you do the same thing when you get a chance. Now, you cried about this, and then you called it as it should be called, and then you do the same thing and say, that's retaliation. Is that how it is? And if it is, under what kind of authority? Moral authority. Because if we consider ourselves Christian, we don't use an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. That's for others to use. All right? We use something else. Unless we somehow degraded ourselves to this kind of philosophy, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And if he's like that, then you can say, well, you know what? I responded and he did that. If I call it that a bad act, if I do it in the same way, the same thing, I can't call this a good act. Well, you can say self-defense. That weasel used those terms, project whatever, what was his term here? Project force. Anyway, let's go over and see what else is here. He said, however, that Kiev has a legitimate right to defend itself. Correct. I totally agree with that. And then he says it has the legitimate right to do so within its own borders, of course, but it does also have the right to project force. That's the weasel. Beyond its borders to undermine Russia's ability to project force into Ukraine itself. So as I said, Putin visits South Africa. If he's going to be assassinated by the Ukrainians over there, that would undermine Russia's ability to project force. What if they, let's say, again, do something to one of Putin's ladies, or I don't know, one of his daughters? Do you think it's going to hurt him and then undermine his ability to project force? You know what I mean? I think you know. And then he says, the UK Foreign Secretary said, striking legitimate military targets beyond Ukraine's border is part of the country's self-defense. Yeah, I totally agree with that. We should recognize that. I agree with that. Now, legitimate military targets. Were the apartment buildings in Moscow legitimate military targets? No. Is that a war crime? Hey, Cleverly, I want to hear you. Cleverly, hello? Oh, he ran away. Okay, let's move to the next one. This is Cleverly. This guy. Looks clever? I don't think so. Clever? No. Ukraine has right to defend itself beyond its borders. UK Foreign Secretary. This is the Foreign Secretary. This probably has to deal with what? With Lavrov, this guy? Okay. Well, good job, my British friends. Good job. You very much happy about this guy. So again, it is the same thing. They say legitimate right to defend itself, can project force. Remember, when you do something bad about something, you say I project force. And that should be everything included, depending on the circumstances. So the same thing is here, but it doesn't say anything about the attack. And this is on the 30th. It's a coincidence, I'm pretty sure. Again, it's a coincidence, right? So this is the same. Let's go to the next one. So, New Voice of Ukraine. This is the Ukrainians, the ones that cried that the Russians destroy Kiev, which they do. They destroy this, they destroy that, they attack children, they do this. Then they do what? The same thing. Are you supporting that? If you're supporting that, well, you can't call yourself a good person then, I guess. And if you do not support it, are you going to call it as it was? That, I'm not saying that the proportion, but again, let's say someone rapes only 3 members of your families and you rape, 50 members of his family. A crime was committed? Yeah. Bigger over there? Yeah, but still. My God. More than 10 drones downed around Moscow. Buildings hit buildings. Russia media says. So Moscow experienced a drone attack in the morning hours of the May 30th that resulted in minor damage to several buildings. Minor damage, but what was the purpose? Those buildings were apartment buildings. Well, minor, were about, a few Chinese in their embassy in Belgrade in 1999, just a few. Minor collateral damage. Is that what you're saying here with many minor damage? Maybe it was unsuccessful. No? Attempted rape, attempted murder. Minor, he didn't get it done, but he tried. Is he going to be penalized? The intent, with intent to kill, with intent to rape. Go and check it out. So anyway, just because the perpetrator did not succeed in achieving his criminal goal doesn't make that person a criminal mind. And you associate yourself with that person. And when that person is going to point fingers at others who unfortunately are successful in their crimes, it's just that this guy was not very successful. He was successful because they hit buildings. I don't know if people died or not, but nevertheless, why do you hit apartment buildings? And I'm going to get to the last article. That's going to be the knockout. We're going to have an expert saying something so stupid. But anyway, let's go back to this article. All right, let's go to the next one. Russia Today, the same date, 30th of May. Civilian shelter in Belgorod region hit by Ukrainian attack. Now, how do you call that? Say civilian shelter in Kiev region hit by Russian attack. Klitschko reported. Would you believe it? What would you say this was? War crime? Well, I think so. But the only thing that here is Russia Today, which we are somehow conditioned to hate from the very beginning and mistrust. Second, we have the Russians saying this, and then the Ukrainians being accused of perpetrating a crime, or at least an attempted crime. The shelling has left multiple civilians dead and injured, so they were successful this time. I want to hear, and I want to see these politicians and the moral and ethical people in the West coming and calling that as they call the Russians for the good reason. I want to hear it. Do you think you're going to hear it? I can guarantee you're not going to hear it. You know what you're going to hear? That. Or they were entitled, because they returned their favor. They, like my last article, you're going to see what expression that person uses. No, they're lying. No. They made it up. This is what they're going to say. And you should ask this way. If this really occurred, would you call that a war crime? And they will evade the answer. They will be like this. Why? Because the Russians will provide you with evidence that happened. It happens in a war. Purposely or accidentally. Okay? But the point is, if you do the same thing as you blame the enemy of doing and call it a crime, and you do the same thing, well, how should I call you? I'm just defending myself. All right, let's go to the last article, the knockout article. But let's read a little bit on this one, though. The Ukrainian military has shelled a shelter for temporarily displaced people in Russia's western Belgorod region, local governor said. The governor broke the news in a short video address posted on his Telegram channel on Tuesday, saying the attack left multiple civilians dead and injured. He did not provide an exact tally, stating only that he has been to the scene of the incident. Unverified footage from the scene circulating online shows a projectile lodged deep into the surface of a road, as well as the parked car heavily battered by shrapnel. Well, I don't know. According to local media reports, the attack left at least one civilian dead and 2 others injured. The shelter houses people evacuated from several locations across the Shebekino district, immediately bordering Ukraine. All right, let's go to the last one. This comes from the Business Insider. I think these are Americans. The drone attack on Monday is likely Ukraine's way of giving Russia a taste of its own medicine. We're expert. I would say this is a criminal, not an expert. How can you say that? So yeah, we raped their mothers too, but that's not rape. It's just a taste of their own medicine. Is that how it is? Well, we just bombed civilians. We didn't kill. We didn't commit a war crime. That's a taste of their own medicine. Is that what it is? Okay. All right, my friends. If this is the apartment building that was hit somewhere up there, but not on that side. On up there, one of them. A drone attack in Moscow on Tuesday. Who do I have here? Chris Panella, John Haltwinger, Syned Baker. I don't know who the expert is. Probably all three of them. A drone attack on Monday on Moscow on Tuesday hit residential buildings, the first attack against the capital since Russia invaded Ukraine. Well, it was not the first one, it was a second, but anyway, Ukraine, because it was on the Kremlin, and that's part of the capital, isn't it? But these are idiots. Ukraine denied sending the drones, but an official suggested Moscow residents deserved to fear. Okay, all right. So Moscow residents, these are civilians, deserved to fear. An expert told Insider the attack could be Ukraine's giving Russia a taste of its own medicine. This is so retarded, man. It's unbelievable. I give you this. It's like during the COVID, okay, when people said, well, he was not vaccinated and he got COVID and he died. Yeah, and he got, and used that, he got what he deserved or something like that. I heard people saying that. I read articles about that. Really? Is that how you think? Yeah, he didn't get vaccinated. See, now what? What? How many people got vaccinated then? But being happy, showing happiness because of someone else's what? Or let's say someone got, I don't know, I don't even want to go to that on YouTube, so shut the hell up, Emil. So let's see here if you have Miron. Who's this guy here? All right, Podolyak. Oh my, no, that's not good. So a series of drones strikes in Moscow on Tuesday shocked civilians and the city and could be Ukraine giving Russia a taste of its own medicine, a war expert told Insider. All right, well, here we have Ukraine denied sending the drones, but it's likely that the Ukrainian side was behind the attacks just to terrorize Moscow. Dr. Marina Miron, a woman here. Okay, so we don't have any doubts about that. A postdoctoral researcher at the Department of War Studies at King's College London told Insider. So that is this person right here. This is the expert. The attacks left no major injuries or destruction, but the psychological impact that Russia is not as invulnerable as it would seems is very, very important in this context, Miron said. That's true. That's true. She added that the drone strike could be part of Ukraine's so-called 1,000 cuts tactic of war, referencing previous comments by Mikhailo Podolyak, an advisor to Ukraine. So she added that it could be just 1,000 cuts. Let's use some, how do you call it, metaphors here or something. 1,000 cuts tactic of war, killing civilians. Okay, that's 1,000 cuts. When the Russians do it, we don't call it 1,000 cuts. We call it war crimes, and it should be. Okay, the tactic. She tries now to make us subscribe to that thing instead of calling it a war crime. We're gonna call it 1,000 cuts. So next time when the Russians are committing a war crime, call it 1,000 cuts. Means they will strike different target to disorient the adversary, to disorient the Russians. It won't be kind of a massive operation, but rather it'll seek to stretch Russian capabilities. This is just weasel talk. I want to know, so you're so happy about it? What's that? Hey, expert, that's Ukraine's way of giving Russia a taste of its own medicine? Is that what it is? And she's a war expert. Okay, man, if you want, that's what it is. So let's go back to my face here, because I think I'm really done with this thing. And remember, next time when something like this happens on the other side, usually 1,000 cuts or something, or taste of their own medicine, or they raped our women, we're gonna do the same thing to them so they see how it is, or is that how it is? Don't do to others what you don't like to be done to yourself, or something like that. The Bible, the New Testament, not the Old one. The Old Testament is with eyes or with teeth, gauge them. I know. Well, this is it, my friends. Be moral, right, and ethical, as they are. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.